I'd probably say from when Ray spoke to me about this idea, the whole idea of engaging with a therapist or speaking with a therapist was something I wanted to kind of bring to the event because it's not something that typically a lot of men in general would ever think to do, let alone Black men, because culturally it's not something that we're ever taught is acceptable. So just having that, courage to go out there and seek that is just an amazing thing. And it's I think if we do one thing with the event or with this group, it's trying to make that service accessible. And the conversations that I've had with the therapists about what we're doing and about the events, I mean, I've had a few conversations now where we're just talking about the event and planning things, and you're speaking with a therapist and they're picking up on certain cues and certain things you say and certain thoughts and beliefs you have, and they'll ask you certain questions that kind of stop you and think, I see what you're trying to do with this. And you just think, do you know what, let me just give you an open, honest answer. And the conversations, you don't know where they'll take you, and they kind of grow. And after the conversations, you just feel like there's just such a burden that's been lifted from your shoulders. And these are just like conversations I've had in terms of planning these events. And it's something that I think everybody should have. We need to almost normalize the service of speaking. And I'm not saying it has to be with a therapist. It can be with a friend, a family member. But the key point is speaking and not just suffering in silence.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, like I say, there's therapists, counselors, advisors, there's all sorts of people, and there's family members, friends. There is a difference between a paid professional who
Yes.
knows what they're doing and just a friend, right? So just
Yeah.
also bear that in mind. Like you might give a friend
Yeah.
something heavy and they don't know what to do with it. They might just say, hang in there.
Yeah.
And that's not what you need. So, so just always bear
Yeah.
that in mind. The choice is always yours, but it's to show though, if you had a
Well,
conversation with a paid professional, you sometimes know the questions to ask as well. So that
yes.
allows you to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's just like you said, we interact as friends a lot, but how often do we purposely try and go under the surface and say, do you know what, how are you doing? And maybe not take the first answer of, you're fine, let's move on. But no, how are you doing? How are you doing professionally? How are your relationships? Is there anything actually on your mind? And just be more mindful that when you are talking with your friends, even though they may seem happy, just do that check. Just do that sense check of how are you?
Yeah, there's a nice saying about listening with the intent to understand as opposed to listening with the intent to speak next. And so if you're genuinely listening and asking someone how they are, wait for the answer and dig deeper if need be, if your intention is to find out how they are and to understand where they're at and what's causing that. And if it's just they're great, find out more. I think on that note, this is going to be about the podcast, right? So what would you say the intention of the podcast is? What would someone listening to us now, when they tune in, what are we hoping that they take away? What's the value we're hoping people get?
Um, I always think that one, we're being open and transparent. We're letting them know that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay for us to have these conversations, for us to know that, you know, like I've said to you guys before, the same rain falls on everybody. And especially you being a black boy or man, you always think that no one would ever understand. I wouldn't be able to outlay this and share my burden with anyone else to for them to take it on. But in actual fact, that's actually wrong. You're your own worst enemy when you do that. And that actually works against you. But having this safe environment to know that it's okay not to be okay, to know that there's people out here who are going through the same things that you're going through, I kid you not, it just takes so much off your shoulder. And it allows you to feel better within yourself and know that you can obviously connect, share your problems, and as a result, you become a better person. Your mind is not so anxious. You're not so stressful. Your heart is not as heavy. You know, you're more happy, and effectively, you can also do more for the people around you and your community.
Yes, yeah, for me, Sha, it's like you said, if one person can listen to it and it can take them from quite a negative place and help them and provide them tools to have more of a positive outlook, I think we've cracked it really.